This is the Global Podcast Network, where executives and professionals connect, share, and inspire. Stay tuned for the conversations that drive success.
We are here to help you with one of the most important things in our lives. I'm going to say that, communication. If you were on a deserted island, all right, maybe you don't have to worry about that. You probably would be communicating with yourself in some regards. How can you improve your communication? We've got a lot to talk about today, and that's courtesy of a gentleman that has created an amazing platform where there's insight, coaching, teaching, lessons about this and so much more to transform your life in a positive direction, whether it's professional or personal. It's called Intentional Achievements, and he's the man behind it. Joe Price is back with us. How are you doing today?
I'm doing great. Great to be back with you.
So I'm from the great white north, the frozen tundra known as New York.
Yeah,
where we had a blizzard, 2.5 feet of snow. You're in Phoenix, that area. Go ahead. Tell me, what's your temperature?
70 degrees and sunny. Sorry about that.
Well, you know what? Ask for it. You know what? And there's a rumor in a couple of weeks here, it may be in the 60s, which
Okay.
I'm going to roll some dice here and say we'll probably still have snow on the ground because the drifts are like 6 foot, 5 foot tall. But
I would think so.
yeah,
I'm glad I moved here.
I'm right behind you. Trust me. You know what? In this area, we dodged a bunch of winter bullets over years. It was time. So here we are. Communication. Where do you want to start? I know we've been talking about the 11 traps of communication, right?
Yeah, and out of the book that I wrote called The 11 Traps of Communication from Breakdown and Breakthroughs, at the end I give people 10 key takeaways to improve their communication, and I think that might be a great place for us to go.
Are these in any particular order?
They aren't. They build, I think the first one really for us to think about is that communication is the vehicle through which everything happens, right? And so we have to remember that communication problems aren't just about skill. We can think about improving our communication skill, but if we have wrong definitions, if we don't have a clear purpose of why we're communicating, if we're reacting while we're communicating instead of being intentional, if we're trying to protect ourselves and try to be fair, and we're not concerned about the other person's feelings or values, those things are traps that affect communication that are not particularly skill-based.
But that's also perception. You know, where you're worried about somebody, how they're going to take it, and some of those other things that are there. I would think that might get in the way of effective communication.
It really is true. And just like everything about intentionality, awareness becomes the key. Are we aware of what we're communicating, why we're communicating, what the outcome is that we're looking for when we're finished communicating? If we're aware of these things going in, our communication outcome is going to be better than if we weren't aware and we were just winging it.
So we have Tevin. I can't communicate. We have 7 takeaways. We have 10 takeaways today.
We have 10 takeaways, right? This one's the first one. It's not just skill-based. We have to be aware of all of the influences and all of the factors that influence whether communication is effective or not.
Can you give an example?
Yeah, sure. So if you and I are communicating on a business issue, and I realize, for example, that you have some history, some bad history about the topic that we're talking about, it brings up the 10th trap, which is the baggage trap, which says we have a lot of scars and filters and problems from our past that affect the way we listen and the way that we communicate. And if I'm not aware that you might have something like that as we're communicating, it's going to cause us a problem because I bring up an innocent topic and you react immediately, and I have no idea where you're going and why you're going there.
Essentially a trigger.
Yeah.
But how would you know? You're having a conversation with somebody, or you're involved in a relationship. I was in a relationship with a woman. It's like, maybe like 5-6 years ago, and I'd say the word, "Hey, steak. Let's go get this. We haven't had a steak in a while. Why don't we go get pick up a steak somewhere?" And
Right.
that kind of set her off because she had some arguments about the way steak is made and cooked and blah 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 from a previous relationship. I'm like, oh, I'm sorry, I didn't know.
Right.
How would I know?
Yeah,
So
for sure.
what if you're not going to know these things until they come up? I would assume.
It really is true, but we have to be sensitive about it. So if we think that a topic might have a trigger connected to it, we sort of let people know or ask a question ahead of time. I want to bring up a topic with you, but I don't know whether there's anything in it that might trigger you. So let me know if this triggers you, and then we'll have a conversation about it and figure out what we're going to do.
So don't want to spend a lot of time on this particular one. We have 9 others
Sure.
to get to, but how would you know to bring that up? Let's say we're going to talk about. Well, now I'm answering the question in my mind right now. So we're working together. We're talking about finances, and let's say we're going to make it an LLC. We're gonna turn our company together into an LLC. We're kind of
Right.
a side company. It's a side. We're
Sure.
working on a side company. I guess it would make sense to say, "Hey, have you ever partnered with somebody before? How did it work out?"
Right. Any issues in that partnership that we should talk about or know about before we get started?
And the answer is yes.
Right.
As
And
we've
let's
all
talk
had.
about it, how it'll affect how we move forward.
Yes. Okay. Fair enough. All right.
All right. The key to all of this and everything that you and I've talked about is intentionality, right? Is that we're thinking ahead of time of what might be a challenge in this communication, and we're bringing it ahead of time to take away some of the trigger, some of the emotion, which happens to be the second key point that I want to make. But it makes sure that each one of us are as present in that conversation as we possibly can, which is one of the other points that I want to make toward the end.
Okay. Well, I was going to say, how do you do that to be as present as you can in the conversation? But should we wait on that one?
Yeah, let's wait and let's get to the second point, which is because communication lands emotionally before it lands logically, we have to realize that emotion happens before people get the logic of what you're actually saying.
I'm going to put an asterisk on that one. That's a key point, isn't it?
Okay? Because we have 6 emotional needs as one of the traps, right? So we want to be valued as a person. We want to be seen as important to you. We want to know that the communication that we're involved in is a safe environment. And we want to be respected as an individual for our point of view. If I communicate in such a way that attacks any of those emotional triggers, now you're not listening to anything I have to say.
Okay. Wasn't thinking that. I was thinking more of being intentionally listening. A lot of people are always thinking about the next question before the point is being finished and all of that. But this is shutdown. If something is said that I guess triggers you right away, you've already shut down. I'm not listening. I don't want to deal with this. I don't want. But that's not gonna be productive communication.
It's true, right? And we've talked about communication is an equal responsibility between the person who is sending that communication and the receiver of that communication,
Yep.
the person who's talking and the person who's listening. So there are 2 real key levels of listening that the listener has to focus on. Number one, active listening. Number two, empathic listening.
Hmm.
And what's the difference between the two?
Want me to answer that?
Active listening, yeah, please.
Active listening is just what it sounds like. You're actively listening and you're getting the information and processing it. Empathetic listening, I think that I might be saying it in a different way, is
Correct.
picturing yourself, I'm going to make this very simple, in the other person's shoes.
Yeah, good for you. So, active listening is the process of listening for what's being said and the logic or the information
Gotcha.
that's being communicated.
Facts and figures.
Right?
Yeah.
Correct. The empathetic listening is listening to the emotion behind what's being said. And a lot of times, what's interesting about the empathic listening is we're listening for what's not being said as much as we're listening for what is being said.
Do you feel that the empathic listening, it certainly can come naturally if you're an empath, or more than average, if you would.
Yeah.
Do you feel that it's something that is a learned skill?
Yeah, I believe it is. You're going to ask yourself some very key questions. Do I hear any emotion in what that person is saying? Where do I think that person is coming from? Are they passionate about that subject, or are they just giving me facts and figures? Is there something behind what's being said that they're not saying, that they might be intimating or inferring, that I can ask a question about to get a deeper understanding of what really the emotions are that that person has about that subject?
I will tell you firsthand, the active listening, I've trained myself a little bit better to listen for facts and figures. Not that I didn't, and I believe what happened was I'm more present and I stripped away any of the stress and anxiety. We all got it, so I try to minimize that. And now almost automatically, if you spit out about 35% of people, blah, 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 whatever it is, I'm going to remember most of it. I don't even know I'm remembering it, but later on, if I needed to transcribe it or maybe do a post, hey, I was talking to Joe from Intentional Achievements and he said that, I would remember those numbers, facts, and figures. Weird.
Right.
but because I stripped things away from it.
Yeah, good for you. So the first part of that is being present.
Yeah.
The second part, there's a skill attached to it that you can improve, and it's called the mirroring skill. And what you're doing is you're actually repeating in your mind what the person is saying out loud. So you're not only hearing it from them, but you're hearing it from you. And it doubly reinforces specifically what they're saying.
Essentially, is this the same as when you meet somebody for the first time, they say their name, and then you say, Joe, very nice to meet you.
You say it to yourself once, and then you say it at least once or twice out loud.
Yeah, like if you said 35% of us mess up on communication trap number 2, then I would say 35% and it's number 2. Yes, it is.
Absolutely.
Gotcha. Okay, great.
Yep.
Wonderful.
And it reinforces. So it causes you to be more present and makes you more active in your listening.
Gotcha.
Now, the challenge with that is when you're so active, can you automatically switch to empathic listening or empathetic listening and hear the emotion and everything else that is being communicated that's not being said in words? Because sometimes we focus more on one than we do on the other.
You're asking can this be done?
Yes.
I'm going to say yes, absolutely.
It can, and it has to be trained intentionally because it doesn't come naturally.
I'm going to say, and I never, give myself an attaboy, but I believe I do that. It's a skill and you're always growing it.
Yes.
But as I found out a couple of years ago through some of those strength assessment tests that my number 2 skill, communication, number 1, number 2 is empath. I
There
knew it
you
was
go.
up there. I knew it was that high.
Yeah.
So I guess I use it to my advantage, but I'm always listening and thinking about the person, their feelings, where they're coming from. But it's a skill. Yeah, I've been doing this a while. I only just figured that a couple of years ago.
Well, it really is true. And it's also tells you something else that we talked about earlier, which is our personality profile.
Hmm.
Because some of us who are, say, for example, group A or type A personalities, being empathetic is not their number one skill, right? Where a group B or a type B emotional, personal type personality, it comes more naturally to be empathetic than it does a group one or a group three. So if you're a group one or a group three, you have to develop the skill more than a group two where it comes a little bit more naturally.
So I don't want to run out of time because we want to do.
Yeah.
We're trying to get to 10 here.
So number three is assumptions are the silent communication destroyers. When the mind trap, the mind reader trap, the dictionary trap, the baggage trap, they're all making assumptions of what we think the other person is saying. And you know what happens when we assume, right?
I was thinking it.
I know.
Yeah.
I figured
Yeah.
I'd bring it up so everybody else was thinking the same thing.
Yeah.
But it becomes a really key takeaway point, but trap for us that we have to remember. So, what's the key for us in that takeaway? Slow down, ask questions, and clarify so that you don't assume.
Gotcha. Okay. Again, these are skills, hitting the brake a little bit there
Right?
to take the time to ask questions and go on a little fact finding mission based on what communication you received.
Absolutely. And we've talked before that most of us think communication is so easy and so logical that we don't think about it and give it as much due and much skill development as we possibly could.
We take it for granted because we're communicating from the moment they slap our bottom when we're born. You
got it.
cry, you're communicating.
There you go. All right. Takeaway number four is protection freezes relationships. What do I mean by that? In the
I have no
50
idea on that one.
Yeah. 50-50 trap, the two-way trap, the responsibility trap. We protect ourselves by waiting for the other person to be more intentional or to take a step. So, for example, we talked about the 50-50 trap where I'm 50% responsible for the communication and I'm waiting for you to give your 50% before I give my 50%. So I'm protecting myself a little bit, and we can't really do that. We're trying to wait for fairness, or we're waiting for reassurance, or we're waiting for the other person to take the first move. We've got to really make a decision. We're not protecting ourselves. We're going to make 100% responsibility. I'm taking the first move to make sure this communication is effective.
Why 50-50 and where does that come into play?
It comes into play where a lot of people think marriage is a 50-50 deal or communication is a 50-50 deal. But we find out that because marriage doesn't last more than 53% of the time,
Isn't it ironic that we talk about
right?
50-50 and it's about 50% that it doesn't last?
Yeah. And because in that relationship, one person is waiting for the other person to take a step, right? And if we just say, I'm not going to wait anymore, I'm going to 100% show my love, I'm going to 100% show that I'm communicating effectively, then it doesn't matter what the other person does because I'm taking 100% responsibility to make sure that it's working. And if I take 100%, you take 100%, does that automatically improve our chances for success?
So making it quick here because we want to get to the other points.
Yep.
Should you take 100% in a relationship, communication within a relationship? Should you not wait for the other, but take action right away, 100%.
Absolutely.
Okay.
100% of the time.
You know, are you a marriage counselor too?
I am.
Oh,
Because here's what's interesting. I coach family businesses where couples are building a business together, and I find myself doing more marriage counseling than business coaching.
Joe, I had no idea you did that.
Yeah.
I do marketing along with a lot of other things, been doing that for almost 20 years and work with a lot of just family businesses. It's,
Yep.
small and medium sized businesses.
Yeah.
I give you a lot of credit.
I'm telling you. And we
Yeah.
do work with second generation businesses where the first generation started the business, founded the idea. Second generation comes in to try to take it over.
Oh my
They
gosh.
have a different idea from the founder. Now we've got communication problems. We got outcome problems. We got purpose problems.
Oh
On top of
gosh.
that, we're dealing with family dynamics.
Oh, and situations where one person is pulling a lot of weight, the other one isn't. You have
You
somebody
got
who's
it.
younger, older. Oof. What
Yeah,
we could do,
exactly true.
we could fill tons of podcasts just on that topic alone.
I'm telling you, it really is true.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Hmm.
So key things when you're splitting hairs between business communication and family oriented communication becomes added challenge, right? Now, fifth takeaway, the medium and the environment matter, right? So whether you're sending an email or you're in a meeting or you're doing a person to person conversation, or the timing of it matters, whether it's in public, whether it's in a hallway walking down, the hallway having an emotional conversation about something. It might be the wrong medium, it might be the wrong environment for that conversation.
100%. Texts have a place. Email has a place. A phone
Correct.
call has a place. Handwritten
Right.
letter, very important place.
Because each one of those mediums do not take into account all the vehicles through which we're communicating: words, body language, tone of voice,
Right.
facial expressions. Some mediums, you don't have the benefit of that. And therefore, it's going to get you into trouble if you're having an emotional conversation and you're just reading words.
Should you take emotion out of it as much as possible?
The challenge with us as being human beings is we can't divorce ourselves from the emotion. And we can't divorce ourselves from the assumption of what we think words mean when we're just reading words.
Well, it goes back to my 3 filter. Before you do it, before you send it, before you say it, is it kind? Is it necessary? Is it true?
There it is.
You don't hit them, don't do it.
Yeah, it
Hit all
really is
three.
true.
Where?
Number 6,
Gotcha.
our past is always in the room when we're communicating. Your history is with you. The baggage that you bring from a previous conversation or a previous relationship that I don't know about is going to trigger you in your emotion based on that topic, and I have no clue.
And going to add to that you may not know what your baggage is because so much of it, and I've done
That part's true as well.
thousands of podcasts on the subconscious and what's sitting in there.
Yeah.
You may get triggered and not even know why from something that happened in your childhood.
Yeah, absolutely right. The 7th key takeaway is make sure that every conversation you have a purpose in mind and you know what the outcome is when you're done.
Back to my 3. Is it necessary? That's one of them. So I
Right.
think that's what's the goal? What's the
Yeah.
goal?
If I'm trying to inform, if I'm trying to inspire, if I'm trying to motivate, I've got to understand that because I'm going to use certain language and certain facial expressions, certain body language, certain vehicles based on that purpose and that outcome, and
Yep.
they have to match.
And your goal or direction could be all self-centered. And that not,
Absolutely correct.
is it for the greater good, or you're just, I just got to say this. Well,
Yeah.
do you really?
There you go.
Yeah.
Yeah. Number 8, presence is more powerful than perfection. Right? If I'm present, if I'm actively listening, if I'm empathetically listening, if I'm thinking very presently what I'm trying to get across, if I'm the sender, that's more important than the actual skill that I'm developing. Because
Okay.
that skill is always improving. But my presence has to be there in order for me to do what I need to do.
Gotcha.
And the last one, which is really important, is that the ultimate outcome is understanding and connection.
So, should we go into communication with that in mind?
Always, that is the purpose, right? What connection am I trying to make, and what understanding am I trying to either listen for or communicate to?
Understanding and connection.
Yep.
So you can take my three filter that I pilot by, put that to the side before you have that conversation. What's their understanding going to be, and what's the connection going to be?
That's correct. And how do I listen for that understanding? How do I send a message that gets that understanding and make sure the connection is what I want it to be?
Wow, this stuff's great. This is like so many relationships would still be intact. I truly believe if people followed
You're
this.
absolutely true.
Business and personal.
Right.
This is just a piece of what you offer with intentional achievements. How does it start? Somebody's got some questions. They want to learn a little bit more. How do we do that?
Intentionalachievements.com, and they can contact me on WhatsApp at 623-680-1776.
I don't even know how to communicate this, but you are such an effective coach. You get to the point. It's clear. Obviously, you've honed communication skills. It's understandable and it's applicable. There's nothing I've ever heard that I say in the back of my mind, that doesn't apply to me. I don't know how I'm going to use that. Every single point. It's like you're like a mind reader of things that we need. And this is, again, we're just talking about communication today. There's been so many lessons in this series. And look back, they're online. If you Google Joe Price podcast, you should be able to find them very easily. Joe, thank you for all of this and everything that you offer to move our lives forward. And this is not something that you just came up with, last week. This is years of experience in helping people do what they do. And I just learned, another piece of you where you work with family businesses and their dynamics and communication. Wow.
That's correct.
Again, share the website. Just want to make sure we all hear it.
Intentionalachievements.com.
Fantastic. Thank you so much for today and everything we've done.
Appreciate it much.
We'll talk soon. We'll be right back.
This is the Global Podcast Network, where executives and professionals connect, share, and inspire. Stay tuned for the conversations that drive success.